Lewis and Clark had survived crossing the mountains. They met the Nez Perce tribe, and with their help, the Corps of Discovery was able to recover from their ordeal and prepare for the remaining journey to the Pacific coast.
They were then helped, and they had a little camp called Canoe Camp at that point for the very purpose of building canoes.
And they must have had just rotating crews that worked every moment of daylight to just chop away at those. Obviously, they didn't need a real refined product, but still to make a dugout canoe and then to paddle it down the river is quite the accomplishment.
They're getting on that river, and they're going to get on the Clearwater River and eventually make it down. They're going to go literally. Clearwater's going to go across the panhandle of Idaho, and they're going to get on the Snake River there at Lewiston, Clarkston. That's where they're going to meet up with the Snake. It takes them 3 days to get across the panhandle, so that shows you how fast the Clearwater was at that point. And then they're going to get on the Snake, and they were on cascading, rolling river, and they're going fairly quickly all the way down, and they travel at great speeds. They're going to get down to Richland, the Tri-Cities area of Washington, and they're going to get there on October 17th. So they're, in other words, they're rolling.
When they're going down the Columbia River, they have to basically they need to take their canoes and go down, and it's very steep. It's very very treacherous. And there's a great description of the native peoples that are standing along the edges of the river, waiting for them all to crash in their canoes to see this giant disaster take place.
I love that they go down these crazy waterfalls that all the tribes warn them about. They're like, "Oh, you're crazy, don't do it." And they did it anyways, and luckily survived and didn't have too much injury.
They're going to get to the Dalles around the end of October. In fact, they're going to put down a little fort called Rock Fort on October 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th. And that Rock Fort is going to be their place to camp as they enjoy the area and understand the cultural perspectives of the area. It's a place where there's a lot of natives who are trading.
They're coming into contact with very different cultures. The native peoples who live in the west along the Columbia River Valley and those areas out to the coast are very different to some degree than their cousins further east. They don't rely heavily on bison. They are basically people who fish for their food or use plants, roots, and things like that.
Salmon was introduced to them. The Shoshone were the first to introduce some salmon to them, but the Nez Perce definitely introduced salmon to them. But the problem was there was two types of salmon. There was fresh salmon, which was freshly caught or newly caught and was then able to be cooked and was wonderful. That was always good. If they could get fresh salmon, that was great. However, there was also dried salmon. And the way the natives did the dry salmon was they would just fillet it up and they'd throw it over a tree and let it dry out. Well, when you just hang it over a tree, flies just gravitate to it. So the salmon, you could say, had salmonella. And so they were getting ungodly sick from the salmon that they were eating that was dried.
They have already had probably more contact with white people because of sailing ships that have been moving up the Pacific and are entering the Columbia River and essentially moving upstream, and have been now for probably 20 or 30 years. Some of them are American ships that are moving up. These peoples have much more sense about who the white people are, and they've become excellent traders to the point where Lewis and Clark complain about the terms of trade. Well, these folks have learned that these new people have a lot to offer, but we have things too, and so we can hold out for a higher price for the things that they value of ours.
By this point, they were running out of moolah. They were running out of money, running out of trade goods. So the only thing they could afford was dried salmon.
One of the significant things that Lewis and Clark encountered here in the Pacific Northwest was when they got to where Portland, Oregon is today, they were back on the map.
George Vancouver had marked Mount Hood. Mount Hood's another one was named by him. He had marked Mount Hood. And when they saw Mount Hood, for them, that was like, there it is. We're back on the map. That's the mountain we're looking for.
Once they got to that part of the Columbia, they had to know they were close. I think it would have been an emotional moment for Lewis and Clark.
So between that point, near the end of October, until they left in Mandan, which was what, April 21st to October, that entire period there, none of that was mapped. They're going to head down river from there, and one of the places that they see that's an incredible, it's really iconic on the Columbia River. It's called Beacon Rock. That happens on Halloween Day, October 31st.
They could see the rise and fall of the tides, and so I think that would have been significant to the Corps because it told them that they were near the ocean.
They get past Beacon Rock. They go past a place called Multnomah Falls. Now that's a beautiful waterfall. Some of these places on the way by, they're gonna check it on the way by, and on the way back upriver the next season, the next spring, they're gonna spend a little bit more time, check it out, visit it. But right now, they're looking at the time of the year. It's the end of October, 1st of November, and they're going, we got to find the ocean. And they're thinking, well, we're probably within 50 miles. We just have to beat the paddle here. We just got to dig harder and we'll get there. They're going to come around the river at one point though, and this is where it gets very interesting. There's this moment, I can almost imagine it, because Clark is coming around. They've been waiting for this moment. They look out, and across the horizon they see nothing but there's just a line. And Clark, you can almost imagine looking back, and he looks through his binoculars or through his scopes, and he looks back at the boys. He's with a smile, and he looks again just to make sure, and then he points. He says, there it is. There it is. Ocean in view.
We made it after so long being away from our family and all the hard work, all the challenges, all the hardship, everything that was sacrificed. We made it.
Oh, the joy. That's what he writes in the journal. Oh, the joy. Ocean in view. The mighty Pacific Ocean that we've been wanting to find for so long. It's now finally in view.
For more information or to become involved with the Lewis and Clark Trail Alliance, visit lewisandclark.org. To learn more about Shenandoah University and the Shenandoah Center for Immersive Learning, visit su.edu/skill.